You're listening to Toronto's #1 real estate podcast, powered by Watson Estates. The most successful local real estate investing starts right here, right now. Here's your host, broker, investor, and social media influencer, Bradley Watson.
Good morning, investors. Bradley here from Watson Estates. It is Friday. That means we've made it through another week of quarantine. Way to go, ladies and gentlemen. We did it. Let's keep this going. We are doing great. Cases are continuing to go down. Let's hope that continues to be the case. We haven't seen a daily drop, but we've been seeing a weekly drop, and I hope these numbers fall right off because we all want that cottage vacation, don't we? Today we're going to cover some really cool news that's come out in Toronto. Cool for some, not so cool for others. In fact, we're going to start off talking about Sidewalk Labs. Now, if you have not heard, Sidewalk Labs has pulled out of Toronto. Well, welcome. Nice of you to join us. Guess what we did? We Googled it. We looked it up. I don't know if that's like a conflict of interest. You Google Sidewalk Labs. Maybe every single news article is biased towards Google's favor. No, of course not. We actually looked up a bunch of articles. I want to share with you not just what happened. We were actually very hopeful. I had done a video about this a couple months ago probably, and kind of talking about the controversy related to Sidewalk Labs. But I also want to talk about what comes next for that area of Toronto. And then I want to get into what we find will happen if the economy reopens. Will it cause devastation? According to Manulife, not so small insurance company, they are claiming that it would cause devastation if it was too early. I want to talk a little bit about that and also how the real estate market is holding up during kind of this season of the real estate market. And then I want to talk about how firm the government is on telling people to avoid cottaging. There's been this back and forth fight on both the federal and provincial level on whether people should be able to run out, go to their cottage over the long weekend. And so I want to kind of share what the current thinking is on that and generally just talk about what opening up would mean for our markets and the overall impression that my clients are getting. Because at the end of the day, I can share the numbers from all of the GTA, but the most experience that I have comes from dealing with my clients on the ground. And that's really why we put this podcast together, is to try and, break through some of the news, go through the articles, talk through it, but also give some real world examples and share what I'm experiencing with my clients on a day-to-day basis. But before we kind of go there, let's talk about this whole thing with Sidewalk Labs. What is going on? So the first article is from theguardian.com. Google affiliate Sidewalk Labs abruptly abandons Toronto's smart city project. This is a very interesting thing. This is kind of shocking, but also kind of not shocking. So let me walk you through kind of what this article is saying, and we'll talk a little bit about it. Google's affiliate, Sidewalk Labs, has abruptly abandoned its vision to transform Toronto's waterfront into the world's first, quote, smart cities. In a statement released on Thursday, this is yesterday, Sidewalk Labs CEO Dan Doctoroff said that sustained unpredictabilities stemming from the coronavirus pandemic meant that the project was no longer feasible. Quote, as unprecedented economic uncertainty has set in around the world and in the Toronto real estate market, it has become too difficult to make the 12-acre project financially viable without sacrificing core parts of the plan we had developed. The sudden end to the Quayside project marks a stunning downfall to the vision championed by the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Eric Schmidt of Google of a community built from the internet up. So very interesting news, right? Like they've pulled back. Now, the thing is there comes with great, so they said, this is a statement from Google, from this Doctoroff guy from Google. He said, one of the world's great centers of technological innovation is speaking about this project, and it's with great personal sadness and disappointment. And obviously they're kind of saying, we wanted this too, guys. We did our best. And it's funny because they actually were pushing not even that long ago in 2017. So a few years back, as this was going on, they were talking about things like raincoats for buildings, autonomous vehicles. Like they wanted these train systems to run under the city that would bring supplies in and out to reduce traffic. They were talking about cutting edge wood frame towers, and the wood would be brought from Canada, leading to jobs and leading to more affordable housing. And then it says here, but tensions quickly mounted when Sidewalk Labs scaled up its ambitions, pitching a plan to develop 190 acres of prime waterfront real estate far larger than the agreed upon 12 acres. Maybe this is where things went off the rails. There was a pitch to the city that they wanted this thing to be going from a 12 acre to 190 acres. They ramped up big time. So if you were to say, oh, the vision of the city was what kind of was maybe holding it back, that might be a fair argument because Google wanted so much more than the city was willing to offer. And actually, out of archdaily.com, another comment here. Recently, the government agency responsible Waterfront voted unanimously to limit the team's original 190 acres. So Waterfront Toronto is kind of the ones responsible for the waterfront, and they voted to not have that expansion that they wanted. Google wanted more, right? And we didn't offer it to them. We didn't allow that to happen. In fact, we met them with a ton of criticism. Here's some quotes. This is from a venture capitalist, Roger McNamee, I guess is how you'd say it. Wrote in a letter to Toronto City Council, no matter what Google is offering, the value to Toronto cannot possibly approach the value your city is giving up. It is a dystopian vision that has no place in a democratic society. Harsh words, right? The co-founder of BlackBerry said 2 years ago, a colonizing experiment in surveillance capitalism attempting to bulldoze important urban, civic, and political issues. And Sidewalk Labs had previously said that the data collection wouldn't be shared with third parties. And we kind of talked about this back when we did that Sidewalk Labs. Go back and check it out. It's still got very relevant info. You can kind of learn more about it. I guess you could kind of argue, well, what's the point now? The thing's done, which is true, right? Like things have fallen apart. It's just so sad that there wasn't a meeting of the minds here. And it's led to Sidewalk Labs pulling out of this whole venture. And so the question is, what does the city do now? And I've dug through some of these articles to try and find what is their statement. I think this probably took the city by surprise based on their lack of information on what comes next. But talking to John Tory, he said that it represents, quote, a tremendous new opportunity to develop the former industrial lands. True, right? Like at least now we've opened up this land. Okay, so here's the thing. We've lost Google City. We obviously didn't like it. I like to call it Google City, by the way. It's called Sidewalk Labs, but I call it Google City because I just think it's more fun. And so here's some of the other things. This came out of cbc.ca. They said the so-called smart city was set to feature a range of cutting-edge technology from residential towers to autonomous cars to heated sidewalks. Wouldn't that be fun? Who needs a car with heated seats when you got a heated sidewalk? But here's the thing. And the idea of that, by the way, would be to avoid, traffic and plows, and it's for the snow. We live in the cold here, guys. Come on. It's not because you want those warm feet. All right. Mind you, I was the one that first thought of that. That's my idea. Heated feet. Okay. But one of the things I wanted out of the CBC article is what we were giving up as this project pulled back. The company initially claimed the project would create 44,000 jobs, generate 4.3 billion in annual tax revenues, and add 14.2 billion annually in gross domestic product. And this is me adding on top of it, not to mention housing, right? Not to mention the opportunity to create affordable housing. And based on what they were saying, some of the most affordable housing in the city of Toronto. Quote, Toronto's economy will come back strong after COVID-19 and we will continue to be a magnet for smart people and smart companies. I believe that was from John Tory. Tory also said he plans to push Waterfront Toronto, the organization that controls development along the city's shoreline, and both the provincial and federal governments to make sure any development in the area will create new jobs and a, quote, carbon neutral neighborhood. Okay, so these are some of the hints that we have on what would come based on this. He wants a carbon neutral neighborhood, and then he also said better transportation and sustainability features, and with affordable housing units. So this idea is, so some of the good things that we saw out of the Smart City or Google City or Sidewalk Labs or the once famous thing that's now gone that I had to Google to get more information, whatever you want to call it, we are hoping to take the good stuff of that, put that all, roll it up and make it something greater. I mean, obviously, politically, you have to say this, right? Like you just got completely sideswiped. And so now you got to say, oh, it's going to be even better. It's going to be greater and more amazing. Time will tell. And now we've got a good 12 acres there on the eastern side of the city to build. So here's the thing. Does this kind of dethrone Toronto and the GTA from being the tech capital of North America? And that's a very strong argument to say we're the tech capital of North America. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I've researched this before. you can make a very, very, very strong case that Toronto and the GTA is the tech capital of North America. Believe it or not, we have seen massive growth in our tech space, and you don't have to look much further than Kitchener-Waterloo in that area to see the expansion we've had. And there's a reason that Google chose Toronto in the first place in its kind of short list of cities to build. One of which being, the Canadian dollar not being as strong relative to the United States. So there's for tech startups and all these kind of companies coming in, there's a lot of really good opportunities to hire people. We also have a huge growth in immigration. Now, maybe immigration is one of the things that led to the decision for them to pull back. Who knows? But you cannot say that this single-handedly removes Toronto as the North American tech capital. I still think we are up there, guys. We've topped in a number of stats, Silicon Valley, and we are doing very well in the tech sphere. I actually did in the same video talking about Sidewalk Labs. We talked about the actual article. The video was called "Is Toronto Synonymous with Tech?" Right? Like, we are so joined to technology that some people invest in the GTA and they chase tech jobs. Because think about it, the type of people you're employing are kind of the perfect tenant, right? Like, you're hiring a working professional who is educated and has a well-paying job that's not going to disappear. Like, is that not an ideal tenant? And the other thing to think about is with immigration challenges that have happened in the States, it's chased a lot of the tech skills from the US to come north of the border. And so we have a really strong tech economy here. So maybe that is as an opportunity for some of you investors out there, if you're looking for room to grow your portfolio, maybe consider investing in tech without investing in tech. Okay, let's move on here. I want to talk about Manulife, and their CEO warns, this came out of a Global News article, of, quote, devastation if economies are reopened too early. I'll tell you, as I'm reading this article, I have been shaking my head, trying to wrap my head around this. I feel like this is a very opinionated, I feel like this came out of a very opinionated, not so statistic view, okay? And as I'm reading it, I'll let you frame your own kind of thinking, but it's big news, right? Like, Manulife is no small employer, they're no small company. So here it is. Manulife Financial Corp's chief executive on Thursday cautioned against reopening economies shut by the COVID-19 pandemic, despite challenges that contributed to 40% decline in first quarter profits for Canada's biggest life insurer. So they're getting hit. That's the credibility they're giving these guys. They got hit by the pandemic, therefore we should listen to them, guys. We should listen. A, quote, dramatic increase in testing and contact tracing and progress on development of treatments and a vaccine are needed before economies can begin returning to normal, CEO Roy Gorey said at Manulife's annual shareholder meeting. So there you go. That was where the statement was made. But really, are we going to wait until mass testing, mass tracing, and a vaccine are done before we open our economies? Now, here's the thing. He's talking to his shareholders, so I don't know why he's painting this picture. He said this, quote, "We cannot afford to get this wrong. Subsequent pandemic waves could create greater economic and social devastation than we've already seen." Right? Like, very negative news on opening the economy is a bad thing coming from the CEO of Manulife. Global insurance companies are seeing plunging yields slam investment returns, while the pandemic has boosted some payout expenses. Manulife sees significant pressure on oil prices leading to downgrades on some energy holdings, but doesn't expect widespread defaults. Manulife saw losses of $750 million in energy investments, to their portfolio. So as I'm kind of hearing this, I'm like, okay, well, you guys are getting slammed, which gives kind of some credibility, but why would you want to paint this picture that we should not open our economy? Like, you guys know there's conversations right now about opening our economy. Hopefully you're hearing this optimism. And so why would we dampen that with suggesting you got to keep everything closed until a vaccine comes? I mean, if you want to see the CMHC result of prices not increasing till 2022, then maybe you should become a shareholder and attend their general meetings at Manulife. Please don't sue me, guys. I love you. But then I was like, okay, is there something fishy here? And so maybe it's this. This is just kind of a point of criticism that came at the end of this article. Smaller rival Great-West Life on Wednesday posted a 45% drop in first quarter net income to 37 Canadian cents a share. Sun Life Financial also reported lower profits on Tuesday. Manulife shares reversed earlier gains to fall 1.7% in Toronto compared with little change in the Toronto stock benchmark. So maybe the reason is because big companies win when economies fail. And maybe their competition is dropping 45%. And so let's ride this out and come out on top. It seems to be a very big play in things like the airlines, right? The little guys get squashed and they disappear. Same within the real estate industry. Little guys are going to get squashed and the big guys are going to succeed, right? That seems to be how things work. And so perhaps that's the play, but I don't know. Very gloomy information. And hey, we're not waiting until a vaccine. Earth to Manulife, we cannot afford to wait until a vaccine unless you guys want no jobs to go back to. So that is not happening. Let's talk about what is happening in the Toronto real estate market and with prices and how everything has affected us. There's an article that came out of Remax. Okay, guys, and I'm going to be fair here and say this is Remax. So you want the bias of one side, here's the bias of the other. Okay, this is a real estate company. In fact, I think Remax is the single largest in the world talking about Toronto real estate. Prior to social distancing measures, the property market was hot, with the Toronto MLS stats indicating an average housing price surpassing the $950,000 mark. This means home prices continue to be high earlier this year. Rising sales and low inventory resulted in further acceleration of Toronto home prices year over year. So they're just reminding us of what we came through. And if you forget that, if you're just like, oh my God, we're in a recession, we're collapsing, jobs are falling, and you completely disregard what kind of market we were in, let's not forget we already had a psychological impact in 2017. We've already gone through a dip, okay? And you guys are now saying, well, we're gonna get squashed here. We have to keep in mind what our status of our market was before if we're gonna take a full approach here. Yet rampant effects of the pandemic have led to job loss, steep drops in the stock market, and the potential for real estate market slowdown. And then, so the article talks about this. There are a few factors that have helped determine how Toronto real estate prices will be affected as a result of the coronavirus. So here are some of the points that they bring up, and some of them are pretty good. The real estate industry continues to operate. So what they're talking about here is not only is real estate an essential service that will continue, it also includes real estate offices, land registration services, and moving services, and other essential services around us, right? Like financial institutions, law firms, both of which provide their services at this time. Inspectors, I'm doing actually an inspection this afternoon. I've mentioned it a few times. Maybe like intrinsically, maybe deep down in my heart of hearts, I am terrified of going into a condo, but whatever, we're doing it today. Wish me luck. While people may fear that the resources for purchasing or selling a home won't be available, this is not the case. Home buyers and sellers will have the support needed during the real estate process. So the point here, we've got the resources, right? We are essential. Real estate is essential. I was joking around with my little brother yesterday. There's a meme for TikToks. If you're over the age of 30, ignore me. Even if you know this, ignore me, because people over 30 shouldn't be on TikToks. I'm thinking about canceling it this year as I cross that big 3-0. Anyways, we were talking about how there's a sound that says don't be suspicious, and I actually made one up yesterday. Don't be essential. Don't be essential. Don't be essential. Anyways, moving on. Let's keep moving here. Keep the head straight. While people may fear that the resources for purchasing or selling a home won't be available, this is not the case. Home buyers and sellers will have the support needed. There you go. If demand continues on its current trajectory, sellers shouldn't feel too much impact on their property value. However, if there is a slowdown and the seller is intent on selling now, they may need to reduce their price in order to attract offers. I have a client that we've been kind of tracking for the last, 2 months. Every single week I've touched base with them, giving them stats and info. The number of sales have not spiked, but the news is becoming more and more optimistic. I'm seeing buyers starting to come back just from, people hearing what's going on and around us. And so there is a level of optimism that is leading to what I think could be maybe 50%, let's say, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, seeing things starting to pick up a little bit. And so this was enough of a bet for these guys to put their property on the market. So we're going to be posting that thing next week. And as things kind of flip around, if they do, they will be well positioned to jump and take advantage of things because they want to move up and get a deal on an even bigger property. And so taking a little bit of a loss on the smaller unit is no big deal when you're taking a far greater advantage of the next purchase price. That's kind of the thinking there. But everyone's different, right? For those who are uncomfortable with purchasing a home now, it may be in your best interest to wait. I agree. I was talking to a major investor this Wednesday. It's going to be coming out on next Wednesday. It'll be our weekly video/podcast, and I'm excited to share it with you. And he's buying. He's got cash and he's buying because it's a great buying opportunity. The duration of the pandemic. Okay, so moving on to the next reason why they think real estate is going to do okay. If current social distance measures continue for a prolonged period of time, then the housing market in Toronto will reflect this. The uncertainty of the pandemic may deter some people from making home purchases. Okay, so the duration, right? How long are we in isolation? The financial challenges due to non-essential closures have had a number of repercussions. Investments have lost value and job losses, right? The money's not all there for everybody. These factors could limit the financial power of people and resulting in decreased demand. So the longer things go, the harder it will get. So I was talking to a client yesterday and we were talking about Airbnbs, but I'll kind of bring it back into this point here. The question was, if Airbnb start coming on the market in droves, will that affect the purchase price, right? Because we've got an influx of new listings. And so I was kind of thinking about it and I'm like, okay, we definitely have seen an impact in Airbnbs converting to long-term rentals because these are investors that are trying to get some money out of those properties if they're tight, or some of them are just kind of waiting for the Airbnbs to come back. But if they're tight, they're putting them in the long-term market. The question is, are there people so tight that they have to sell, right? Like they're right on the edge. They're, in my mind, a terrible investor and they have no money set aside and therefore need to kind of flood the market with properties. And so I was kind of just thinking through it with them and we were talking about, okay, what about this idea? Like, let's say you got 10 properties, right? And 10 is kind of the stable months of inventory, that balanced months of inventory we're kind of at. If all of a sudden you get 2 more properties come on the market, my thinking is that in a stable marketplace, everyone is looking for their own self-interest and they don't want to just sit their property when they know the values are going to go down because the supply has gone through the roof. Again, assuming a stability and a stable market. So in theory, if I had a property, I would be, maybe there'd be a couple of them that would think, you know what, this is dumb now. There's too many listings, nothing's selling. I'm going to take mine off the market. So 2 of the listings that are maybe doing it in order to generate a profit and trying to sell, but not necessarily desperate to sell, would come off, thereby bringing it back down to 10 listings. So yes, you could have an influx, but in reality, people aren't looking to just dump their homes, at least the people who aren't desperate. So what would need to happen in order for that number to go through the roof would be to have some kind of major shock. We're not just talking about like daily transactions and changes. There is psychological impacts, but there would need to be, because we're now seeing some stability, in my mind, there will need to be an additional major shock happen in order for us to boost those listings beyond the active listings or the number of sales, and therefore having an increasing months of inventory. Anyways, just some food for thought, some stuff that runs through my head. You know me, I just sit and I dream about real estate all day long. So some other things, just to mention some of the highlights, to talk about technology, right? The idea that question here is technology sufficient to bring buyers to have a level of comfort to purchase properties? I tend to think no. I don't think technology will replace the comfort of seeing the home. However, if you have a good agent and you're able to build it into your offer, you can have a viewing after, guys. You don't have to be running around looking at 10 homes. That's not what I'm doing with my clients. You can put in an offer and look at the thing after. But they are saying that technology is allowing people, it could potentially allow for flexibility where people are comfortable seeing it and then putting in an offer sight unseen, maybe, but I don't think that that's the case. I think more likely as things open, you'll start to see that boost come back and not before. But then the last point they have here is lower interest rates, right? We've seen significant decreases in our interest rates, putting us all the way down to a current rate of 0.25, the benchmark interest rate. And so interest rates are cheap, right? They're very low. And one of the things they said here is the Canadian government is actively taking steps to help mitigate the risk and various benefits and will help businesses avoid layoffs and keep their employees on the payroll. I was talking with my church family yesterday. Every Thursday I have youth events, and one of the ladies were kind of talking about their job and that their employers asking them to come back to work, but they would just stay home, but they'd be coming back to work, and therefore they were kind of getting advice from other professionals in outside industries, not lawyers, mentioning that they should, not go back, keep collecting your emergency benefit, right? So I happened to mention, because we'd been researching it for our podcast and we had told our viewers, I just mentioned just in passing, and I double checked it and I can confirm, there was an article here that said, this was from CBC, okay? Any of you in this predicament, I'm not in it, so I don't research it for myself, but I've now talked to a few people who have. So here's the thing. The question is, do employees have to go back into work if asked? The article, if you want to check it out, is called Anxious About COVID-19 and Returning to Work. Here's what you need to know. And then this is what he said. This is a labor lawyer, okay? His name is Howard Levitt. There's really no choice. If it's a safe workplace, the employee has to go back to work. So then someone here agreed that as long as employers has met the safety requirements and precautions in the provincial and territorial health authorities have put forward, the employee is required to return. Despite the fact the employee may have concerns or may otherwise feel unsafe, the employee does have to go back. That notion that many people have that I can simply decide not to come to work, that is incorrect. I think a lot of people are going to find themselves on the end of a resignation when they didn't intend to resign. Don't screw your jobs over, guys. Ask a lawyer. That was the advice I gave yesterday, by the way, not read this article and this is the truth. I would suggest speaking to a lawyer before you turn to your employer and say, you know what? No, I think I'm going to stay home. The whole point here, guys, is to protect the system, right? We're not trying to pay everyone out for everyone to stay home all the time. It's an emergency benefit for that reason. Not everyone qualifies for it. It's kind of a luxury that you have it. So take it while you got it. I mean, I've got business happening now. I'm not going to qualify for the emergency benefit anymore, but you know what? I don't care because I want to make more money. If you're not making as much money, the whole point here is, you know what? It's not about you. It's about a system. We can't keep paying out for people to sit at home and therefore disincentivizing people to go to work. That's not why it was created. And I don't think from what I'm seeing in news articles and from what I've seen in the past that that is the case. So be vigilant, chat with your lawyers. Okay. So I want to go here. I'm going to kind of skip through here and I want to talk about cottages just briefly because there's been a little bit of back and forth now with the premier talking about whether we can go to cottages and have a free-for-all on Victoria long weekend. And so there's a couple articles here. First one is fear and feuding over an influx of cottage owners from Ontario cities with high COVID caseloads to rural, wooded, and lakefront communities expected in earnest starting Victoria Day sparked a call for caution from the Ontario Premier Doug Ford, but not the ban many cottage country mayors has hoped for. There are in this article a ton of really strong positions from mayors. Let me see if I can find one for you. Here we go. Mayor of Muskoka Lakes Township, Phil Harding said, actually he didn't, it's not a said. Oh yeah, no it is. We're really not open to tourism, but the locals need the seasonal residents to survive. We need to work as one and respect each other. So he wants visitors and tourists to stay away, but he wants cottage goers and property owners to be able to attend. Don't think of it as a holiday. It's an isolation weekend. So that was from Muskoka. There was there's some other people in this article that talk. It seems though the mayors of these small cottage cities or towns are encouraging people not to come for day trips. And so that has been the pressure that's led to Ford saying, don't do it. And then what gets really fun is where the politics comes in. Over Easter, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau crossed from Ottawa to Quebec to visit his wife and 3 children at Harrington Lake, the official country home of the Prime Minister. Trudeau was criticized for leaving on a trip shortly after his public address telling Canadians not to travel over the holidays. Quote, this long weekend, we all have to stay home. We can't get together for dinner. And then he said that on Good Friday. Irony. And then over the weekend, however, his wife, Sophie Trudeau, posted a cheerful photo on social media of the family out together. But you know what? He's not the only one getting flack. Doug Ford, who's making these announcements, got flack too. There's an article here, Global News. Despite calls for Ontario residents to stay home amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, it turns out Premier Doug Ford visited his cottage. Government sources confirmed that over the Easter long weekend, despite making a plea for people to not travel out of major urban cities, he went to his Muskoka cottage. So what I find funny about all of this is, okay, let's make these, I don't disagree. I think if the mayors of the cottage countries are saying stay home, then we should stay home, right? We're going to bring down their systems. But the funny thing is, what I see in this is human nature at the highest level, right? These guys are in the public image and yet they say stay home and they can't even do it. So this, in my opinion, is pretty much showing that we as people who are created to be social in nature and require, interaction and relationship, physical relationship, what do you expect, right? You're telling everyone to stay home. So all of this combined with an opening economy, I think people are itching for that reason to go get their haircut. Maybe not get their haircut. Maybe they want to do something safer, like what? Buy real estate, go in a house that has nobody in it, perhaps. So very interesting stuff, very funny. I love politics for that reason. It's so funny. It's so easy to poke at, And okay, so ultimately maybe real estate can fix the urge as stores continue to open up. So maybe that urge can be satisfied by you going and doing home tours instead of sitting at home watching your really silly virtual tours online of home open houses. I don't understand this open house thing that people are so passionate about because we've opened it up. But whatever, people think it's cool. I'm going to leave it there, and I will see you guys again tomorrow because realtors never sleep on weekends. and I will chat with you again and give you an update on kind of all the scoop from this week and all the news, because there's always news daily now. We're finding it. And so this has been a great adventure. Thank you. Once again, yesterday was our record number of downloads we had on Toronto's #1 real estate podcast. We are Google Podcasts #1 podcast for Toronto real estate. I really got to change the way I say that because it trips me up every single time. And so I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Have yourself a great one. Take care and keep it real.